attendance is welcomed. If you plan to speak to the board, please look over the information on the agenda, then complete the public comment section on the cards located in the back of the room, provided to Mr. Superintendent Torres or myself. To address the school board members, please stand, come up to the podium, identify yourself, and briefly state your concern. Public participation is a right that carries certain responsibilities, such as informing oneself in advance of the issues being discussed, voluntarily being as brief and germane as possible, not unduly repeating remarks others or you have already made, and showing respects at all times for the rights and opinions of others, whether citizens, board members, school district employees, or students. Thank you for your commitment with Laurel Public Schools. Are there anything of a public comment not on the agenda? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. Moving forward, we will have our student representative take their oath of office. We do have a returning and then we do have a new student. So you want to have them stand up. We're gonna, it's not official, but we're gonna swear them in. You didn't bring your cheat sheet? You better bring your cheat sheet.
So raise your right hand. Oath of office is, I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support,
that I will support,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Montana,
and the Constitution of the State of Montana,
and that I will discharge the duties
and that I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Very good.
Thank you.
I'll give them
Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
All righty, moving on to correspondence. As you can see, we have a list of very big supporters in our community. I'm going to list each one of them. If I spell their names, I apologize. Sounds like an individual started mentioning some of our low-balance student accounts for lunch, and voila, the community stepped up and started helping our students. So Mo Combs, Dad and Mary Hinman, Wade and Marty Slaughter, Jerry and Cindy Reisner, Molly and friends, Linda Weaver, and then Henry Kite and his wife, Lori Booster Club, Laurel Booster Club. I know. Darwin Spencer, CHS Inc., Total Down District, Trevor Financial Insurance, and Kara. So we do appreciate everybody who is taking notice. We do have some struggling students in the lecture challenge, so we do appreciate you getting your friends to the school for that. Next on the agenda, we'll move into presentation. I can't believe you haven't looked at me and I said all of that without my microphone on. Oh, okay. Presentation, moving on to the LPS mentoring program. Come on up.
So I put together just a one-pager for you guys. I've been trying to do this one-page process this year instead of like the 25 slides that you know I can do. So I have just a one-pager here for you guys to talk a little bit about our mentoring support program. And when I started putting this together, it's really more than just our mentors. Our mentors are a huge part of this program, but then this really talks also about our proteges and the role that they play in the programming, and also our instructional coaches, because our instructional coaches are the cornerstones that kind of hold all of those other pieces together. They do a lot of the background work for our mentoring support. So just kind of to run through this, every educator that comes new to Laurel is involved in mentoring support for the full 3 years of their non-tenure status. And then what that looks like from year to year is how we differentiate and support the teachers to meet what their needs are. You can see that everybody during those first 3 years, or during year one of those first 3 years, everyone receives a one-on-one mentor, regardless of how many years of experience they bring into the district. Because even if they're a tenured teacher and a veteran teacher in their field, they are still new to Laurel, and how we operate and the things that we have and the curriculum that we have might be different from another state that they're coming from or another district that they're coming from. So everyone receives that one-on-one mentoring support. We do really try to connect people with a person that's in the same department or discipline or grade level, if at all possible. But sometimes if you are, like the only welding teacher, like there is no other welding teacher to connect you with as a mentor. So in that particular case, we try to find somebody in an area or a similar prep time that could match up with your schedule to connect with that teacher. All of those teachers during year one attend 3 days of orientation, and I'll talk about that in depth a little bit more here in just a minute. But all of our teachers come to orientation for 3 days. They reflect quarterly on just questions about how things are going or about implementation of new programs, classroom strategies, students, and those reflections are between the protege and the mentor directly. They don't ever really come to my office or to a principal. It's really to start developing that tight relationship between the mentor and the protege. Our mentor coordinators, we have one at each level, and those mentor coordinators do see those reflections and just make sure that they're getting turned in. The reflections are submitted to the mentor, and so the mentor gets what the protege is thinking about and questioning and reflecting on, but then the mentors themselves also do a reflection as well that goes to the coordinators so that we can get feedback from both sides to make sure that those are matching up, because we have learned over the years that sometimes the protege is not wanting to ruffle anybody's feathers, and what they're saying to their mentor is not what they would say in private to someone else. So we want to make sure that that communication is clear and that it's tight and that it does line up. And then the monthly mentor interactions, the mentors reflect every month on just, are you checking in? What are the concerns? What are the needs? So that we can make sure that we're offering that support regularly. So that happens with everybody during that first year. Then year two is where we start to differentiate. If a teacher comes to us with 3 years or fewer years of experience, like they're brand new out of college, they will get a one-on-one mentor again. If they come to us with 7 or 8 years or more, then at that point in time, they're either released from mentoring or with a group of other non-tenured staff members that are in the same building, so that we can still offer them that support through non-tenure status. And then year 3 is really based on recommendations that we get from the mentors previously, as well as from administrators that are working directly with the teacher. So we really wanted to develop the support program to be a full 3-year program, that it's not just a one and done, because you cannot learn everything that you need to learn in 1 year. It takes a lot of practice. Below that, you can see orientation. So day 1, we really start orientation day 1 with our human resources office and with our technology department, so that all of our new hires get the nuts and bolts about what they need to do to stay compliant with the district, and that they have the support needs to be able to operate in their positions. So that's really day 1. Day 2, you can see, is where we really start to get more into the curriculum and instruction facets of our work. We talk about the foundations of learning at Laurel Public Schools, what we value as far as instruction goes. We talk a lot about our instructional framework on that day. And then we also do some deeper dive into mentoring and what that looks like for the protege and what that looks like for the mentor as far as expectations. And then day 3, we really dive into explicit instruction, best practices for instruction at each level, really diving into teaching and learning and what we expect as a district around teaching and learning. All 3 of those days also have independent work time at the building built in, because that's also one of the pieces that can be a huge stressor for a new staff member, is just setting up their classroom. Where are my books and materials? Where do I find that? Where's the copier at? So all of those nuts and bolts around just operating in their building, we try to build them time into those first 3 days of orientation to just kind of get settled in the district. One of the things that we changed last year, we did it last year and this year with the orientation, is all 3 of our instructional coaches attended all 3 days of orientation with our new hires. And that has been some of the best feedback that we've gotten, that teachers felt supported. They felt like they were starting to get to know pieces around the district. They felt like they had someone to talk to and connect with, and they started putting names and faces together. And just overwhelmingly, that was a huge positive that came back to my department after we started having the instructional coaches attend orientation with them. I put a couple of notes of just some feedback from teachers that has come in over the last couple of months since we've started school, and you guys can read through those. But I think overwhelmingly the feedback is positive, not always, but for the most part, it's always been really positive. That the teachers that come to Laurel Public Schools feel like they've been supported. They feel like they had people to listen to, people that they could come and ask a question to. I recently, after I printed this up, but I recently had a comment from a new teacher this year that said, if I could just have a little bit more time with my mentor at my building, that we had times at our building to check in and connect, but then I didn't have my mentor right there beside me to walk me through some of the steps or to ask some of those questions, like, how does this smart board work? And how do I turn it on? Or how do I use it? They get a lot of that during the orientation and during the training, but it's also like drinking from a fire hose. They're getting so much coming at them that just having that time with their mentor in their classroom before school starts, they thought that that would be very helpful. So we try to take that constructive criticism back as well so that we can make adjustments and changes. We did a huge overhaul of the mentoring program in 2018, which is where we started developing the orientation days and what we really wanted those days to look like. That's when we also brought on the mentor coordinators to kind of help coordinate what happens at the elementary level, the middle school level, and the high school level. And then, like I said, just in the last 2 years, we've really started to utilize our instructional coaches to help support the programming as well. So we are continuously in that improvement cycle of asking for feedback, what's working, what's not working, how can we improve it and make it better.
Donnie? Charla, how many proteges are there currently in the program?
So currently right now, I believe we have 22. And so that includes, again, not all of those are brand new to the district this year, but teachers that are within that 3-year non-tenure status. So some of those are teachers from last year or possibly even the year before that from feedback, we decided that they needed to be given a little bit extra support. So I think altogether we have 21 or 22.
Is it safe to assume there's 22 mentors?
This year, yes. Yes, some years that's been tricky. This year, yes, we have, we actually probably have more than 22 because we do have some staff that are split between buildings. And so they have mentoring support at both buildings. We also have a group of teachers that have, they're really kind of in a discipline area that is unique, that doesn't have a person to connect them with. So they have mentors that are within their individual buildings to show them the ins and outs and operations of their building. But then that group is specifically working with our elementary coach during some of our professional development time. So those teachers kind of have two. So So yeah, sometimes you'll see the mentoring list. You guys all approve the stipends for the mentors, and you'll see that list looks a little bit longer than how many new teachers we have on hire, and this is why. Any other questions? All right.
We do appreciate your time and all the information. Thank you, Charlotte.
Welcome. Thank you.
Next, under our presentation of the agenda is the primary resources with Amy Caldera.
My name is Amy Caldera. I've been teaching in the district for 18 years, and I teach American history in the 8th grade. And in the last few years, I've had the opportunity to do some traveling to the East Coast and get a lot of training. In fact, I've also been able to start presenting at some of these different institutes, teachers' institutes, where teachers from all over the country attend. And with the help of Charlotte and the school district, we've also, a few of us have attended the National Conference for Social Studies last year in Philadelphia. And there's a very common thread in all areas of American history, or all history. It's primary sources. And a primary source is a source that is developed at the time of an event. Letters, diaries, witness reports, pictures, poems, things from that particular time period, where the drive is for students to dig into the actual material from the time period and make their own decisions, and with the lead of the teacher to kind of analyze different resources. We think this is important across the country because it allows students to see different perspectives of history. It allows them to gain more curiosity because they're hearing it from the people that actually experience those events. We also think that it's important because it simplifies social studies and kind of helps with the primary classrooms, which is what we're really working on as a district right now. Our elementary schools are so overwhelmed with math and reading, and they should be, where social studies finds itself in the backseat a lot of the times. And we're seeing that in the higher grades when I ask my students to take a citizenship test at the beginning of the year. Every year, it gets more and more difficult for them to be able to give me some basics about their country. And it's not anybody's fault, it's just the facts. And so we've been working with Charlotte. There's somebody from each grade level, or I'm sorry, each building. We have a representative from each building working on getting a continuum. So we have primary sources being presented to students from kindergarten all the way through the senior year. In the elementaries, it's things like symbols, pictures, artifacts, art, and music. Moving up into quotes, charts, and data, all the way to speeches, journals, news articles from that time period, witness reports, political cartoons at the higher grade levels. And so we've been working to come up with a universal way to analyze primary sources. We have agreed as the building level representatives have agreed that National Archives has an amazing process for analyzing sources, so that we've decided that we're going to use that at our buildings. And the goal is that a student will go from kindergarten all the way to the senior year and still see those same vocabulary, and they can approach any level of a primary source in the same way. So we're trying to streamline it so teachers can throw a symbol up on the board as a bell ringer, and there's some social studies without having to pull away from the reading time. They can take short spots in their teaching each week to teach primary sources, so the students start becoming more aware of things like, why are these our symbols, or who wrote the Declaration of Independence, or just things like that. We also want the teachers to get more educated on primary sources. I think that and this goes all the way to all grade levels, but I just feel like our elementary teachers are really overwhelmed with so much. And so we're trying to give them small bits and pieces so they can become, feel more efficient in their day and get some social studies and civic education into the classroom. So we wanted to kind of share that with you. The goal is by the beginning of next year that the elementary will have primary sources in the classroom 2 times a week, and at the high school, middle and high school, at least 3 times a week. They'll have some exposure to primary sources in the classroom. So, and I have plenty of other things. If anyone wants to see more about it, I can email you anything.
Any questions from the board? Any comments? Jenny?
How do you use the National Archives as a source? Do you have like an
So
online-
National Archives actually has worksheets for different grade levels on how to analyze. So they have like artwork analysis for elementary, and it's a checklist. They use like what do you see in this picture, and they checklist. And then as it gets higher levels, they'll be doing like paragraph writing about what they see. So it's almost like a worksheet to help you analyze something that's put in front of you, and it slowly is scaffolded so it gets more difficult at the higher grade levels.
I think this is amazing. Thank you for, working with Charla and seeing that we need that. So thank you.
I think it's exciting for us because I know that when I get a student in the 8th grade, they're going to already have so much background and a good foundation when they get there. So it's great. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All righty, moving through the agenda onto the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Motion to approve by Chris,
Second.
second by Donnie. Are there any comments, questions from the board? Any comments, questions from the audience, public? Donnie? Yeah.
There's a couple of expenditures that I was kind of curious about. Hopefully we've got the right people in the audience to help us out with these, but there was $7,000 approximately to MTDA. Is that for students, right?
That's the Montana Digital Academy.
Is that our students taking classes? How many kids do we have doing that?
Yeah, that is, I don't know off the top of my head how many kids. That would include, I think it included the summer kids too, didn't it? I think it included the summer students as well, didn't it? I think, yeah, you did. I think it did. I think the bill included all the summer credit recovery classes, if I remember right, didn't it, Julie? Yeah. So it's not just what they've taken this year. This was all the summer stuff.
25 students that did Montana Digital as part of their credit recovery this past summer from the high school.
Actually just opened up the invoice from that purchase. We had 6 come through as dual credit enrollment and 58 as original credit on the most recent one.
That's good. That's some great things happening, but oh, for the good old days when we didn't have to pay for that. My other question is there was about an $11,000 bill for work on the Loco 3 Zeta.
That was the total brake replacement on one of our activity buses. Zeta, feel free to come up, but that was a brake replacement, calipers, the whole 9 yards.
Loco 3, the newer bus and stuff, we had an issue with a brake thing that came in there. It wasn't something that we could point as an error from a driver error or whatever happened. It just unfortunately happened. And so we lost the brakes. So we just did since we had them already torn completely down at that point with as much damage that was done with it coming in there, we went ahead and did the rotors at the same time.
We think, and just a theory, a working theory is when there's a ADA accessible door, and it has a sensor, and when that sensor senses the door is open, it locks up the brakes. Now that there wasn't a light on the dash, so our working theory is we might have had a bad sensor, which they did replace. That even though the dash wasn't lit up, it might have locked them up at some point, and we think.
To alleviate that on that bus, we actually have a key turn to turn on the lift for that new bus to raise and lower it. And so we're thinking, like we said, it's just we're trying to figure out whatever could have happened to it. That sensor went out, shut the bus down. They thought it was on, and it shut the bus completely down. So, like I said, we've done everything we can do. We're just going to have to chalk it up. We believe it was a sensor. We replaced the sensor, and hopefully that was.
Loco 3 is the newest activity bus.
Thank you very much.
So what everyone's probably thinking is true, is activity buses are awesome, but they are money pits. So just gonna give you a heads up.
Anything else, Donnie? Anything from anybody else? Comments, questions? And again, throwing it back out to the audience public. Okay, so I have a motion on the table approved by Chris, seconded by Donnie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Yes, you are reading that correctly on the action items. There was none. We double checked. We were even trying to come up with something, but we couldn't, so moving on. I'm gonna move through our informational items. As always, I'll go through the reports. If there is anything that you want to stand up and recognize on your report, we would love to hear from you. And board members, I will turn to you if you have any questions or want something to be discussed as well. So please let me know. Student board representative report. I know, first meeting, throwing it out. Are you prepared?
Somewhat.
That's okay.
You know, it's
That's-
not going to be perfect,
that's
but we're
okay.
getting there.
That's okay. You're fine.
It's trial and error.
You're okay. What do we have for us today?
So I'll start, and it's mainly just things that I'm in because that's been my whole life recently. So the first one is student council state conference is coming up. We're leaving on Sunday. I'll be getting back on Tuesday. We have several students leading workshops. I either fortunately or unfortunately am leading one of those workshops. And then just we're making a $2,000 donation to Make-A-Wish, which is student council. It's the mass conference, and that is all the student councils in the state donate to Make-A-Wish. So we are making a $2,000 donation this year. Our Business Professionals of America chapter just got back from a leadership conference in Fairmont. At the conference, students learned more about leadership opportunities, networking, and how to make progress in the organization. We have a couple of state officers, I think. I don't know. I asked one of the state officers to write that for me, so.
Okay.
Put that out there.
It's okay.
Our bands are working very hard to try new things and implementing new groups. We have started an extracurricular jazz band for our underclassmen because our class during the day is kind of just full of upperclassmen who've had experience through working as a group already. So we just left it like that. And then we have a jazz combo that consists of 8 players that will start performing hopefully at the end of this month, next month sometime. We're also working to plan a community jazz dance. So hopefully I'll have more information on that. And then we also opened up and are trying a couple new things. We started a band government. There are 2 elected representatives from each grade and 3 appointed positions. Those were appointed by Mr. Cross. We have a secretary treasurer and 2 co-drum majors, one that directs the pep band and the other that directs classwork. I am one of those drum majors. I do our pep band. And then we have a bunch of new songs that we're working on for pep band as well, and trying to bring a bunch of noise to our stands. And then last, I just have speech drum debate practices have started up, getting ready for our competition starting in November. Our team is very big again this year, and we are looking forward to bringing home some state titles again.
All right, and then I just have some sports updates for everyone. Volleyball has been on a roll, and they won their last 3 games against Park, Helena, and Furious. Volleyball divisionals are coming up in a month, and we're feeling pretty good about it. Soccer playoffs are starting this weekend. This includes 2 rounds for semifinals and playoffs. Laurel will have our home game against Big Fork, and playoffs will determine the last 2 teams playing at state. Middle school wrestling practice has started today. We saw a lot of them running around. And then high school wrestling practice will be starting November 11th. Basketball practice is coming up starting November 16th. And then in addition to sports, an exciting program offered by Laurel High School has also started, and that's Big Brothers Big Sisters, and it's a program which pairs bigs with younger students with the goal of creating healthy human relationships. And then Big Brothers and Big Sisters have begun to visit their littles at their schools last week. Caitlin and I are both bigs, and we are all very excited to interact and offer our support to the younger students in our district. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you, ladies. A lot going on for a dull moment. Wonderful. All righty, we're going to go through department reports. Again, if anybody wants to bring up anything that's really going on that you want us to be a part of, please let me know. Looks like we're already up for activities. Was that the sign?
Something that we've been kind of working on, concerts this year at the high school level. We're going to charge just a small rate admission for those concerts, $5 and $3. We can use that money kicked back directly into our band and choir funds.
Will activity cards still be okay to
Yep.
use?
All of your activity passes, the activity cards will be able to be used at those band and choir concerts.
Reason is to try to raise some money for programs.
Can get into, lights or uniforms or things like that, just to help out. They travel a little bit too, so something small.
When did we stop doing that? We used to charge. I mean, I
We
know
didn't
last year
year.
we didn't,
We
but
didn't
we
last
used
year.
to charge, so I don't know why that changed.
So you guys don't think it would be a giant shock to the world?
No. The only year I remember not paying was last year, so I don't know if that was just the last year thing.
I have no idea.
I think it's fine, but.
Never was. So
Great idea. I mean, if people know where it's going, I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, they pay to get in to see sports and games, so.
Another thing that jumped up before I got recorded was the home soccer.
do we know who we're playing yet?
Big Fork.
Big Fork will be, oh, I'm sorry, she didn't say Big Fork.
Hey,
My bad.
She is covering you. She's got you. That might be a potentially assistinating.
11 a.m. Saturday, Big Fork.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving into curriculum director report.
So I just have a quick question. So on the assessment information, so show in intensive 26% for middle school, and then it drops to 7% for high school, and then 19 to 10 in math. I guess that's literacy. This is math. Like that's a huge improvement, I guess. But do you have any sense of why that is such a difference?
So, boy, that's a deep question. It could be a lot of different things. So once kids get to high school, they're kind of already into those tracks that kind of differentiate the learning already for them. Whereas at elementary and middle school, they're all together in those groups. We don't differentiate like whole learning tracks with like a lower level support for math in particular. We do some of that at the middle school level, but we're still also securing foundational skills with kids all the way up through pre-algebra. So that gets tricky. Whereas then at high school, like if you're at a level of needing to work on algebra, you're in the algebra class. You're not in a class where the teacher has to scaffold that out quite as much. With literacy, it's a lot of the deeper, I believe, the deeper level that we're pushing our kids for literacy right now, where the expectation for being able to examine a text and find textual evidence to support your claims and your ideas, those are not things that I believe that we were doing, several years ago. So I feel like we've upped the ante, and that with upping that level of rigor, we still have kids that struggle with that at the elementary and middle school level. So that can throw your numbers all wonky.
because we're expecting all the kids to be able to do a higher level of learning, and yet they're still learning and developing the skill sets to be able to do that. I don't really want to hypothesize like this is the reason why, because there are so many different things that could play into that. When you look at the district data for elementary, it pulls our fifth graders into that elementary grouping. But yet when I look at the middle school as a whole, those fifth graders are at the middle school, and those fifth graders are the responsibility of Mr. Phoebe and Mrs. Robertus to nurture those kids and support that instruction. So we pull those fifth grade numbers back in. So that throws all the numbers wonky. So there's lots of different things that it could be. I believe for literacy, we've really increased the level of rigor of what we expect kids to be able to know and do. And we're holding their feet to the fire to be able to do that. So I think that changes those numbers. Not to say that I'm not implying by any means that level of rigor is not at the high school. I think that by the time our kids get to the high school, they're in that track of learning, and they've learned how to adapt and adjust within the classroom setting, that a lot of our younger kids are still learning those skill sets. That's my take on it.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Food services, facilities. Wayne, I'm going to pick on you for a minute. How old are those boilers in the middle school again?
They were originally built, so it'd be 2007.
What is the life expectancy typically? Okay. So if I'm reading, are you feeling that we are going to need to possibly purchase one, or are we just trying to patch it?
Those boilers are oversized. They're 2 million BTU boilers. They can handle no matter what kind of sample. I mean, if we had 40 below temperatures, for a week, which is not uncommon, they would struggle. The problem that we have is that one of them went down. Now we don't have a backup. That's what we're going to do. Eventually, because these boilers are 4 boilers to start with, they were outdated when we installed them, or when they installed them. And parts for them are impossible to come by. They've tried that in the past. We've tried it, and trying to find parts for them. So the only option we have to be done tomorrow, but it should be something looked into.
Like what's near a year?
I wish I could tell you the fact that we had one failed crack boilers, gas boilers. They can't be welded unless they're like traditional boilers. So it just needs to be reput.
So the time frame on it would honestly be dictated by their condition. If one was to go down, our time frame would be moved up considerably faster. So we're gonna try to get through this winter, and then we'll make a decision, in the spring. We have other big projects we're looking at, whether it's we got floor issues at the high school. Obviously, we have the bleacher issues, which are a fairly major concern for us. These are all big ticket, 6-digit type items. So we can't do all of them. We just have to decide what's the most pressing and what can we afford at the time. So we're going to look over the next couple of years at all these big projects and try to move forward on them.
Like the typical I feel confident that even 2 of them would take and maintain a comfortable with the type of winters we've had.
Food services. Technology, as you see, there's not a hyperlink, but you do have a sheet next to you, that talks about the technology. We'll make sure. Transportation. Okay, thank you very much for your reports. We do appreciate that, keeping us up to date on everything. Going through financial reports. Budgeted funding sources and taxable impacts. Oh.
Yeah. I just want to say this was nice to see all these graphs and all this laid out so clearly, the changes between the different years and how it's been effective for this year. So that was appreciative. So thanks.
Yes, I'd like to speak more
Yeah.
to the graph, to the whole thing. The whole crutch of the thing was to show you, you know, how the new bond has impacted, you know, our, the taxpayers and our budget too. But the one thing too, as you go down to here, you can see that we've been pretty straight line the last few years, and then now with the bond coming in, we're gonna, you know, be higher. But also you have to remember, taxable assessments have gone up this year for everybody, so the mills have gone down for people. So that was the other thing I wanted to kind of show you towards the end. You know, I don't know how much you're aware of what's been going on in the state of Montana, but the counties were, you know, have to pay 95 mills, pulled from the taxpayers, 95 mills to pay for school funding. Well, now with the taxable valuations being up, they feel like they can get by with only paying like 77.9 mills. And they've all decided to do that. Not all of them, but Yellowstone County is one of them that has decided to do that this year, which could basically, they're not sure how that would affect the school budgeting process for next year. And so it's a big, there's like a lawsuit out on it and everything else. So it's a big hoorah. So that's what I wanted to show you in this last graph, how, you know, over $1 million is going towards that. Less going towards that 95 mills, or towards the state. It's not going to be the 95, it'll be 77. I think what was Yellowstone County, 77.2 or something. Anyway, so yeah, it looks like, oh, we're saving the taxpayers money, but on the other end, they're going to cut, I don't know, they could cut school funding. It could be your, you know, your GTB help, you know, your guaranteed tax base, which, as you can see from this graph, right now, our funding has dropped. Our state funding has already dropped, and we've had to increase what we're pulling from the local taxpayers. So every time they decrease the state funding, we're allowed so much for our base funding anyway. So we pull it from the local taxpayers. And that's what this graph basically shows it, what we've been doing. And so if they pull some more, then it's going to fall back on the local taxpayer anyway. So they're really not saving, you know, in the long run.
Thank you for that.
Interested.
My only concern is that the trustees understand the impact of what's going on with the 95 mills conversations that are out there and the lawsuits that are coming from both sides. The legislator that's suing the state saying we have to tax 95 mills, and the state is suing Missoula County because they didn't aren't going to collect the 95 mills. Nobody really knows what the impact, the consequences of this action is going to be. And just expect something to happen because of what the counties have decided to do here. But at this point, nobody really knows what that something is going to be. The last time something like this happened was back in 17. And what the state did is they didn't cut school district budgets. They allowed us to stay with the same formula, adopt the same budgets, but they reduced the funding that we got from the state level. So we ended up with a shortfall. If schools didn't have reserves to fall back on, they had to cut their spending because they weren't going to have the cash to cover it. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this is out there and it's going to have an impact of some sort, somewhere down the line. But I guess the silver lining to the whole thing is for right now, we're getting a decent relief on our taxes. When I calculated mine, it was $150 decrease because of the GTV funding that's funded with these 95 mil. So there's a decrease now, but I hope everybody enjoys it.
When we say the county decide that, like the commissioners decide, I mean, who, oh, they voted.
County commissioners.
So once school districts set their budgets, they go on to the county, and the county is actually the one who sets the mills so that the tax notices can go out. And
By law, they're supposed to tax 95 mills. Every county is for various things. Yeah, education goes to the state university system, and they just every county's lower.
About VOTEX or universities, it was only K-12 public education that they're reducing those mills on.
Not sure what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. We'll sit back and wait here and wait for the lawsuits to play out and see what happens with that.
Any comments, questions from audience public? Okay. Moving through report. Cash report. Revenue report. Expenditure report. High school activities. Middle school activities for the amended August, sorry, which one? Middle
Or
school.
amended August. So the only thing I noticed was the signature date, which I don't know that it matters from the principal, was 10/6/27. Is that gonna be a?
Well, they did do an August report, and we put it in.
27
But it,
year.
the year is
Seven.
Seven.
Year 2027.
All right, well, maybe the.
Just, I don't know if we need to, just in case that gets picked out during an audit, then. Yeah.
Could argue.
We
it's-
just trying to like jump into the future? No, middle school. Middle school. Yeah. Probably should get that corrected. No, you think we should need to get it corrected? Does it need to be dated correctly?
You know, it's up to you guys, I mean, it's the middle, the auditors,
Do they even look at our stuff?
they look at the end of the year. They do look at these.
We can have him just to
I can have him just change it,
initial it, just have him correct it and initial
That's
it.
the best way.
Yes, please. Okay.
then you'll have to write clearer after that, right?
Maybe you need to stand.
Yeah. I thought we got you one. Sorry. Sorry, Justin, you teed that one up. I apologize.
Softball.
All righty. middle school activities, so we talked about the amended August, September, July, and September. Okay. Thank you, Julie, for all of that information. Principal reports. Again, thank you so much. It's always nice to see what's going on in your schools. It's always great to see the kids enjoying whatever you have going on for that month. So thank you very much for taking the time to put these together. Going through south, west, Graff, middle, and the high school. Perfect. Thank you guys again. Going through committee meetings, September 5th for district operations. Yes, no? Oh, sorry. September 7th for leadership and learning.
I just wanted to comment that Renee Roth should probably be spelled correctly, have our trustee in attendance. Unquestionable. Was in attendance, and I am assuming.
Okay, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I looked at it. I looked, I was like, okay, making sure that I'm not. Okay. Hold on. No, they're both for. The leaderships are good. So. But while we are speaking of that one, the leadership and learning, I'm going to jump, I apologize, September 21st, leadership and learning, that one is dated on the actual top of those meeting minutes, September 7th. So that needs to be corrected for sure. You maybe have to go back in and double check anyways, so I caught that top.
Made a note on the data.
Okay, so September 7th, leadership and learning. September 14th, capital planning.
Now, I probably should look at this one before I say anything too, but twice it referenced Logan Field instead of Mogan Field.
Yeah, it does. Mogan. Yeah, do you see where so each time it's referenced, yeah. No, that one was, good eye on that one. So again, capital planning, September 14th, correction on the spelling of Mogan Field. Thank you. Okay, September 21st, leadership and learning. And again, those meeting minutes need to be noted correct date. September 22nd, district operations. And then our October 4th, RFQ/RFP for the GCCM search. Okay, no questions, anything on that? Okay, we made notes for those changes. Superintendent's report. I know that there was questions on attendant roles. Did those who asked about those, did you guys see those in the superintendent's report for student count?
Oh.
And you guys had asked for another number, and this is the number we know of right now, because this is what we received from other districts, and that is students who are here, who are going somewhere else. They have to send those forms in as you guys approve those. Right now we have 27 total right now, and I think we're pretty close to that. And then our out of district students who we get, that's a solid number at 91. Doesn't include homeschool kids in there.
I was just wanted to ask because of the substitute teachers. Have you looked into Teachers on Call at all? Are you aware of that program?
Why don't you tell me about that? Pretend I don't know that. Just because some of the other people might not. So let's go ahead.
So there is a third party out there. It's kind of like when you need to have any other position within your business, a temporary,
agency?
yeah, like a temp agency.
Is that in
And
Billings?
it's called Teachers on Call. I don't think they are based out of Billings. They've been around for numerous years. I think they're picking up steam and becoming, yeah, having more availability in Montana. And I just thought,
Heard of it, but I will look into it.
it's a Kelly company, that's all I can
Can
tell
you
you.
get us the information? And
Definitely, yeah.
Whatever you got.
So the losing our sped teacher at West, how are we covering that?
We're covering minutes with our aides and then our student services directors going over there along with our instructional coach for special ed is covering right now. So they'll be covering, we did do an interview today, and that, we just haven't heard back from the candidate. HR has called the candidate, we haven't heard back from them.
So do we have any sense for, or have we done an exit interview to see, was this like a personal issue that they? I
Yeah,
mean,
I've done an exit interview and I have read that, correct.
Any other questions? Okay. Resignation report, which you talked about, vacancies. Laurel School District safe return to schools and continue for services plan. Okay, moving into the MTSBA liaison report. Jenny, thank you very much for providing that information. Any other comments, questions on that?
I just wanted to comment, I didn't hear of anyone else that was planning to attend MCEL, but I will be there. Perfect.
And when did you sign up?
I did not need to be enrolled through the school district because of my husband, yeah, but I will be there for discussion.
You saved us some money, good job.
And, yeah, really. And also, I will be attending the MTSUIP breakfast meeting, workers' comp and unemployment, have a membership meeting at 7 a.m. on Friday morning, and I will be attending that also. And I will represent it.
Are you gonna report back?
Sure, it's usually pretty dull, but sure.
Not at all. Perfect, thank you. Okay, moving into discussion items. Requested to put the board agenda and formatting on for a discussion.
I guess I'll start since I'm the one that started this discussion at the last, or asked for this to be on at the last meeting. I just wonder, you know, we previously had asked that the board agenda come out on Thursdays so that we had more time to review it. However, I'm kind of feeling like it's coming out on Thursday and it's to some degree so incomplete that it's not super useful and things are changing after, at least I'm reviewing it. If I review it on Thursday, things change so much that I don't feel like I'm reviewing the same information that may be there on Friday afternoon. And I also have some concerns about whether, once we put that agenda out, then things are changing, and are we really meeting our requirement of releasing an agenda too early that's changing too much?
You don't release it out to the public. Wendy, I think, does it before she goes home on Friday, before it gets put on the website.
Saturday at 6.
So the information only comes to the board on Thursday.
And then, like, she'll send you, like, let's say her superintendent is irresponsible and doesn't get his board report done until 4 o'clock on a Thursday. So he sends it to her and then she attaches it in the morning. And then sometimes we might have a principal that's, you know, dealing with an issue that's unforeseeable, so they don't get theirs in until, you know, the day of or whatever. And then, so she'll then go and send them to you guys and say, all right, I updated this, and this. But that doesn't go out, and then before she goes home at 4 o'clock on Friday, that's when she posts it to the website or to the, so people can go there and link it up. But they can't get it until Friday.
So when we're finding issues on Thursday, we're the only ones that can see those issues.
Not that those issues, we want to fix the issues, but we can make changes up till, you know, 6 on Saturday, which we want to have it all done on Friday for sure. But we want to try to get out everything we can. And again, I'm not bashing any of my administrators out here, but we have a 2 o'clock, noon or 2 on Wednesday is kind of our deadline to get everything in. So she's trying to get everything in on Wednesday. But again, some things just happen. I mean, craziness happens and someone just doesn't able to get it done. So we do encourage them, and I want them to get things done and into Wendy, and I'll continue to do that. And if Wendy's had any problems, she said, hey, could you call so-and-so and help me get this information, and I've done that. So we'll always try to do that, but that's kind of the timeline of it. We want everything in on Wednesday, but again, sometimes it happens they don't. And Thursday, she sends to you guys at the end of the day, and then Friday at the end of the day, she posts.
Because I guess the whole intent of getting it Thursday was so that we could ask questions that maybe needed to be clarified before, and so this one wasn't, but there isn't really that much on here that our normal business. But it feels like, to me at least, that we're getting like less and less of the stuff that we may have questions on, and so we have less time to ask those questions, and then it changes, and I don't know. I just feel like maybe we should go back to a more set date that it goes out to everyone, and I don't know what anyone else feels about.
I'm trying to decide how I want to articulate my concerns. I did not realize that it only went to the trustees on Thursday, so that's a kind of a game changer. I guess when I responded to one of the agendas, I must have responded on Friday because I got told, you know, when you reply all, you send it to the Outlook too. And I'm like, oh man, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew I'd already commented that this change needed to be made. I must have done that on a Friday. I think yeah, neither here nor there. I guess my concerns go a little bit farther than just that particular arena too, and that's it's because of my perfectionism. I apologize for this, but I just strongly feel that because we are a school district and we are a large school district, we should have a pretty high bar on our professionalism. And so the way that agenda comes out represents the school district. So when things are misattached to it or typos within it, or I guess I'd just like to see a little bit higher level of pride in what we're putting out. Does that kind of make sense?
So what I'm going to ask then, you guys, what do you want? Because this is what I was asked at the beginning, was that we want time to review everything. So before anything, we were getting ours on Friday, and we heard that, well, we don't have time to ask questions, and when we do have time, and then we're bombarding whomever we need to obtain that information. So then I tried doing it on Thursday, so we can at least, yeah, is it the first pancake? Yep, they're the first pancake on Thursday. You're absolutely right. And do we have a chance to review everything? Well, you don't have everything, but we're trying to get it out as quickly as possible. And so at least gives you an opportunity to see what's kind of there and then what is eventually coming in that I'm still waiting for. So, or I can just do it on Friday by a certain time, and it is what it is. And that's when that's when everybody gets it, and we can do it that way. I just need to know so that we can build it, Matt can give it to the staff so that we can set everything up. Jenny?
I think I would appreciate it if we had it on Friday, but it went through like a pretty thorough read through, a third party check. That's not whoever puts together the agenda. It's not somebody that has like all right access to Google Docs, because like the handbook fiasco, you know what I mean? Somebody that has just a general person's access that can click on all the links, lead through. I mean, they're not going to catch every typo with name spell, you know, that stuff, but at least it'll tell us that the right attachment is in the right spot and not double attached, and that we can see all the cross outs or the PDF came through, you know what I mean? So if we do a pretty rigorous check from somebody that just reads through and opens every attachment, makes sure it's all there, then I'm okay having it on Friday. If we can be pretty confident that, you know, it gives them time to do that, and it also gives everybody time to finish up their reports and stuff. So that's what I recommend.
Well, the good news is if you do something like that as a board, you want to go Friday, and it doesn't work, you can always change it. So you're not stuck with anything that you choose to do.
Try not to keep flipping back
Sure.
and forth, because then we're confusing or we're not keeping our system in place so that the admin and those who are trying to get their stuff in.
Thursday too. I mean, that was just one question.
I
understand that. I get it, but it does need to go through a check, I think, personally.
And who does that? Oh, I'm sorry, Dan.
I like seeing it on Thursday, and I guess I've always looked at it like you said, like the first pass look, first pancake, kind of like, I understand that it might not be totally filled out, but it's nice to see. It helps me in my head be like, oh, that's a very long agenda. This is how much time I want to set aside. I might look at it Thursday, except for to kind of like peek at it real quick and go, okay, this is how much time I have to devote to looking into this agenda when it's kind of all the way done. You know, because I don't know. I look at them on the weekend when I have a little free time, potentially. That's when I'm looking at them. But Thursday's nice because I can kind of start going, okay, yeah, this is going to take 2 hours, it's going to take 3 hours, whatever, it's going to take an hour. Like tonight's was shortish, so it didn't take as long. But I like seeing it on Thursday that way, and I guess I've always given a little grace to people because, like, I hope I get that at work because I know I don't type everything the best either. So I try to, grant that grace there. I understand what you're saying though about the professionalism, but I think that these are put together pretty well for the things that are going on in the district, and I like it on Thursday.
I'd like to keep saying on Thursday, but with this in mind, I only look at it on the weekends or Monday morning. I would like to see the agenda on Thursday. I don't care that the hyperlinks don't work. I don't care that the documents aren't there. I'd like a completed clickable document by 3 p.m. on Friday, but I would like to see the actual agenda on Thursday for the same reason as Chris. If there's something on there that I want to ask a question about, if it comes out, if I find out on Friday at 3, then it's a personal cell phone call rather than being able to call you during working hours. That would very rarely come up, but it's something, it's one thing I like seeing what's coming up on Thursday when I still have a school day before the weekend.
Yeah, if we wait till Friday afternoon for them to come out, I would suggest limiting the number of policies to review at each board meeting then, because I just think that not knowing how much we have to review over the weekend, especially with some of those agendas that we've had with, I don't know how many policies that we had to read and review, and you have to really think and look through those closely. And I just think it's nice to have those to be able to start reviewing before the weekend.
We can, what I hear you guys saying a lot, and what I'm just interpreting and writing some notes here, we'll work on the third party overview. I think that's a good idea in general. You know, I look at it, I know, Brittany looks at it, but again, it's one of those things where we'll have a kind of a more of an official third-party overview and try to find all those things. I'm not the greatest reader for typos. I'm not the greatest editor for typos. So, but there's people that are. So I think that that's a really good idea.
I do know that Wendy does her best to do some proofreading. And what I can do though is, because this is what I had her do this week, was on Thursday, I had her send me the agenda and I went through I just clicked on them just to make sure that every hyperlink was working. I might not have gone exactly into everything and read it, but I made sure that the hyperlinks were working. I don't mind doing that either.
That's the big thing, because when you're working on it, like when Wendy's doing this, she stared at this every day for the past 7 days or however long, so then you get kind of too channeled in. Also, like with the Google Docs, when we were looking at the handbooks, I think she has a different access than we do. So maybe let's
think we need to use that as the meeting, because I think that was
a frustrating situation that falls under this format. So maybe if we could stick away from like that. I know she's been trying to
fix that. Yeah, we fix that. That won't be an issue in the future.
But potentially could have been caught when somebody else looked at it that wasn't,
So if I do, you have anything else?
Just kind of devil's advocate, if it doesn't come out until Friday and somebody missed one of those, by the time you can get hold of somebody, it's under the 48 hours. And I don't know, there's
Saturday, figure it out.
Right.
I like Donnie, I didn't realize that we were the only ones getting it on Thursday. So I guess in some ways that gives us an extra check. I mean, I still think a third party looking at it is good, but if we get it on Thursday, that is a check too. I thought it went out to everyone. So that kind of changes things as well. But I just echo what Donnie says, not even just the links working, just everything that's submitted for this board agenda is what goes out to our community and what we're legally tied to. And so everyone that's submitting reports, minutes, whatever that is, just the attention and the professionalism of this is the work of our board, and that needs to be in consideration as we're doing the work of this board and what's submitted to us that goes out to our community.
Chris?
This just real quick to formatting, which I think was something that, and I think we've already talked about it a little bit, but like giving public people that come in to discuss things with us the courtesy of going to the front of a meeting. So in the order of operations, instead of potentially having them at the end and letting them go through all of our fun, let them kind of be at the beginning if they're making a presentation, or like even like Shane, instead of making him sit through the meeting, that kind of just.
We did make those changes.
Yeah, and I thought we had, I just wanted to reiterate, because I think that was what the formatting piece, at least in my head, related to order of operations.
So if I do a quick straw poll real fast, what I'm hearing is we're okay to still throw it out on Thursday, just to kind of at least get what potentially is coming down the pipeline. Friday before it's sent out, to ensure that as much of the small little clerical errors can be caught, links are up, everything is embedded, is sent to us and then put on the website before Wendy leaves for the weekend. Am I understanding that correctly? Okay. Any comments, questions from the public audience? Okay, moving through. Construction updates.
Just a couple things I'll present, and of course we have the general contractor interviews, 2 of them on, that you guys know about, on Wednesday. But again, Wayne and I meet, and Devin has started meeting with us. We're meeting every Wednesday, or a Zoom meeting, just to keep you guys updated. One week it's Mogan, the next week it's West. And we're just going through all sorts of things and trying to catch all these little errors. And also in an attempt to catch any problems before they get to be big problems, the A&E is going to come in and present just kind of where we're at, similar to what we did, a little more in depth, what they did for the board, show them, do the 3D fly-throughs and all that. They're going to do that as I think I sent you guys all an invitation to that. And that's voluntary because it's after 4. And then they're going to meet on the 25th and November 15th with staff. And they're going to meet individually, like with first grade and second grade and music teachers and administration and custodians and all that. And we're going to, they're going to actually have conversations and start showing them some of the plans and try to catch problems like, gee, you didn't even put in a bathroom, or gee, you don't have where's the office for the principal? We forgot that. I mean, so we're trying to catch all those things before it gets into the actual blueprint stage where it's really hard to go back and fix those things. They are coming in and they're meeting with the individual groups, and they also talked about doing a public meeting after they meet with these groups and kind of clean things up, and then start doing a public meeting, evening type meeting invite everybody in the community in to look at things, and then updating the website as well. So they just want to make sure that they're good to go with the teachers first and staff. I think I sent you guys that schedule too. Did I send that? Okay.
Comments, questions from the audience, public? Okay, moving in through our discussion items to the elementary school names process update. Just kind of wanted everybody to know where they're at, what's going on.
This was put together by our elementary principals and typed up by Mrs. Doss. I want to say thank you for doing that and kind of getting all that prepped together. And this is the current, unless you guys have any input for them, this is what they came up with as a crew.
I only had one piece of input, and it was just on the timeline, knowing that we have been asked to be, and obviously we can take the time we want, but our architect has asked us to be somewhat timely with making those decisions.
And I've talked to them. It's just because they like to have the wording of whatever Larash Elementary. They want to make sure that's all ready to go and it's on all their documents. Right. Just saying as an example, but
Making a large donation, are you?
Yeah.
So
we'll accept it.
In the end, I'm going to let them decide. They need to take the time they think they need to take the time, because they're also going to couple it with some social studies type things. What are some community history, and try to couple it rather than just, hey, everyone come up with a cool name and get SpongeBob Elementary or something like that. We want to take the time and they want to couple it with kind of a process. Do you guys want to speak to that at all, or you don't have to? I'm putting pressure on you. But it's just one of those situations where I think it's just something that's pretty serious to me. How to do it. Potentially.
So now I guess everything has to change, or you're gonna keep telling and it's not that big of a change, but all the plans and everything that they're gonna be running off of.
And I might push I might push the timeline a little bit. And I haven't sat down and talked to them about this yet.
That would be my only concern. I think it's a great process. I just worry that if we get into the construction process and now we've got to change everybody's thoughts on every single, what building is what. That's just unnecessary complication if we can avoid it. I'd rather name the school right than, have a little bit of crossing out on some paperwork.
At the end of the day, those construction plans will go away and our school will be built.
Exactly.
The school's name will be with the school's name. So I know that they want it for their clarification on all of their documents, and I get it, but it's going to be the name of these schools, and
Well, I'm with you. I agree 100%. I'd rather have the right name on it than the building docs.
they're probably going to be named that even when they're not named, they're still going to be referenced that.
Internally, for construction, probably always call them.
Right.
I think we love it. It's all.
Yeah. Dan?
I like the process. I think the timeline's fine. I mean, one thing too is I don't know if we've really decided what we're doing with West. Is that still in discussion?
This is West is in here too.
West.
So it's okay. And so that's the
So
thing.
there's a
Even if it's-
K2, there's a K2, and then there's a 3-5. And the K2 will be coming up with names for their West. They'll have 3 student selected names and 2 staff selected names. And then the 3-5 school will have 3 student selected names, 1 per grade, and 2 staff selected names. And then they'll talk about, so there'll be 2 kind of processes moving forward at the same time. They would come to you with, these are the 5 new graphs or Mogan selections, and these are the 5 things we'd like to look at to change West to. So they'll come out with 5 separate items.
And my other point too was that I don't know what name is on the construction documents for West. So kind of
West.
exactly. I mean, if we're changing the name, then maybe it does say Mogan, but it won't on the building.
Again, I think construction documents are construction documents. At the end of the day, when we cut the ribbon,
Digital.
it's gonna be the school, right? So, okay. We do appreciate you guys putting that together. Moving through discussion, board operations. I think this was just a question in regards to, I know we kind of did our board training. Did somebody have a specific in regards to communication?
I don't think it was me, but I think we did bring it up that it was. Was it me?
Thought it was.
Because
Is there
the previous
something-
board, we discussed our communication kind of type protocol.
Right, but we only had one truly new member.
Right.
I specifically spoke to Chris on kind of how this board, but if we want to rehash.
Review, I think, is always
Well, can I know what specific review you want to do?
I guess what your expectation is as far as us communicating with Matt, or, I mean, in the past, we had agreed to copying you on communication, just kind of go over that again as a group.
Okay, so if you're gonna be emailing to, Mr. Torix, please email myself, just so I'm aware of it, so that when I meet with him each week, I know that there's something that we might be discussing. That's always been something that we can. So I'm not to say that I would jump in on the email by any means. If I do, it's because it's a question and I feel that I can answer it. But if it's, hey, I need more information, it might be, hey, we might have to ask X, Y, Z. So I just want to be part of that, so I know.
And if it's something that, you might get a call from a parent and it might be specifically about a school, then you guys are passing it on to me and you guys know that I'm passing it on. That's something that, hey, for example, we had those, graph issues with the drop off. Well, and those were all good. But I was moving those right on to Mrs. Peterson to handle those. And I don't go into a kind of my own little thing. If it's West, Mrs. Fuchs gets it. And I'm just passing it on to them. So just so you guys are aware, that's how I'm handling
But I don't need to be included. If you have a direct question to Mr. Clevey and you want to ask directly, I mean, I don't need to be on all those information, that kind of stuff. If it's more like agenda items of the top level, then I do ask to be. But if you're like, hey, Mr. Clevey, I see that you dated this information wrong. Sorry, you're never going to live that down. And I have a question to you. I don't mind you going directly. I don't need to be. And I think Matt's the same way. I mean, if you're just having I'm
If you have a
clerical, or you're like, hey, I'm not understanding, I think we're okay at that level. Of course, all emails, please do not respond. We all have discussed that. If a parent does email you directly, I mean, this is my protocol. I always email them, thanking them that I've received the email and I've acknowledged the email, but that's all I say to them. I don't go into great depth. I don't.
and something that helps a little bit too is hey, I thank you for your email, and I'm passing this on to the proper building administrator or the superintendent, just so they know that what you're doing with it. You're not ignoring them. You're not typhoid Robertus over there, but we're not ignoring it. I want them to know that we've heard them, and but you guys can't solve their problem per se. You're just a board member. when you're out there, you're just a parent, you're just a community member. When you're in here, you're on the board, and they have to know that they can't call you and Chris is gonna go and check that out, and we'll talk to that teacher and figure out what's going on. And you guys aren't doing that, but we just want to make sure that we send things back down to where it needs to go. And that may be, and the principal may see it's a teacher issue and may send it to the teacher and say, hey, give this parent a call and see what's going on.
And lastly, when somebody requested anything on the agenda, I'm not holding it. I'm not saying, oh, I need another trustee. If I have one person request, I'm pretty much putting it on the agenda. I'm not, it has to be a two. I don't feel that I need to do that. If you think it's of importance, then it's of importance to talk about it. I'm not gonna, powers of be to push on a policy. So if you want it, that's fine. And I do try to put them on. I do try to put them on as early as possible so we don't forget them. Timing sometimes, yeah, I know it's going to be a really large, long agenda. Maybe I'll, try to, skip one or whatever. But Matt and I, between both of our notes, every week we meet, we feel we're capturing everything. If we've missed something and you remember, just let me know. I'm human too. So Jenny?
Kind of along those lines, maybe a different subject, but it is board operations. Do you keep a list of tabled agenda items? Because sometimes I think that those get lost.
Well, so Wendy helps us, but what table items do you think?
I don't remember. That's what I don't know.
Because there's been a policy.
Okay.
I would be amazed if we tabled something and didn't get back in. Wendy and I will meet tomorrow morning, and I mean, I write on there, and Julie too, table this number, table this letter. And then she talks to me, did everything. It's the first question she asked, what passed and did anything get tabled?
Okay.
It's always Wendy's first question. She has a large spreadsheet of the dates. So over here's the dates. And then she's got a what to do. And on there, for example, it is meet with Mr. Torix after the meeting, and she checks off that she's done that. And then it's like probably 20 different things.
Okay.
When she has to do it on what day. And I'll tell you, if we forgot one, I'd be amazed. But if you know of one, let us know. But we're on top of that.
The last tabled items that was the policy, and we brought those right back to the next.
But that's all on our meeting, and I got my Wendy list right here. So we meet in the morning.
Any other operational items we want to discuss?
Are you good? You're the newest.
Yeah, I think it's fairly clear. I just want to make sure, Matt, that if we do need to contact a building administrator, say we want to go on a school tour or those types of things, that we don't, as board members, we don't want to go around the executive for matters with.
Just include me, Chris. So just say, hey, is it okay? I'll just forward it on. Is it okay if I schedule some building tours? And I'll say, yep. I'll forward it out to the principals and say, Chris Vogley is going to be contacting you for some school tours. You have your limitations. You can't go in and, evaluate classrooms, things like that. And I just kind of let you know that. You go in and see what's going on. And, maybe you want to go down and see if there's any issues or things falling apart, and they can show you. And sometimes Wayne goes around too and helps out.
Maybe if you want to email them and then see both of us saying.
Yeah, that's fine.
Trustees last year, myself included, just reached out and said, hey, I'd really like to schedule, a walkthrough on such and such a date. Does this work in your calendar?
I would encourage everyone to do it. I think it's good that you see the buildings, graph. I told you guys, I think the last meeting, Wayne's going to be putting down a new subfloor over the old. We're going to put it right over the old floor and just get us through the next 2 years. Because it's, I don't know if squishy is the right word. Is that a technical term, Wayne? It's pretty squishy. Yeah, it's pretty squishy, and underneath it's really, really squishy in the crawl space, and it's just sopping wet. The wood's just dripping water. If you stand under there and someone was to jump on your head, the water would just rain on you. The pictures are pretty incredible. But so there's going to be those things that you may want to see, and we're more than happy to show you those things.
And I just have one other thing, and that's in terms of adding things to the agenda, or how do we do that? Should we do that at a board meeting? I have done that once on one matter with vocational education, and it has not been
And I've requested
addressed
information.
or added. That's
You know what, good call on that, Chris, and that is something we talked about, it's been about a month, but we'll get back on that and I'll go back and review
Not
it.
just questions, it's information that we have to pull from those two, so. Okay, Donna?
Going back to the tracking of items kind of left hanging from a board meeting, does that same procedure followed for committee meeting items? Like, there's a lot of things come out of committee, they're supposed to go to the board, and then go back to, okay. That's kind of, I think, where I've noticed maybe some downfall.
Yeah, let us know if there's anything.
I mean, if those committee members want to email Matt and I and say, hey, this is this, because again, I'm not part of all of that. So if it's, hey, we talked about this, now there's notes and everything, but if you really feel it needs to be addressed, then a simple email and reminder of communication.
My question was the tracking by Wendy. Does she do committee meetings too along with board meetings? Awesome.
Sheets are pretty phenomenal. Anything else? Okay, moving on to the Assistant Activities Director stipend.
You guys asked for some information in regards, so you can see Mr. Torgerson put out 4 questions to our Class A ADs from all over the state. He said, do you have any of the following? Do you have an assistant AD or an events coordinator, or do you have a middle school AD? Help perform a lot of the same duties, but you never know what everyone has. What are the duties assigned with each person, and what is the current pay for those positions, and or is there any other information you'd like to share about this? So he just was doing a little cut and paste from their answers from Miles City and Frenchtown and Dillon, East Helena, Big Fork, Columbia Falls, Libby, Polson, Hardin. There's a whole bunch of them in there, Stevensville, Corvallis, Whitefish. So what kind of
Just kind of informational, talking with a lot of the other ADs, some of them, even gave me a phone call that said, hey, this is good information, because they're looking at similar things. How are they getting some help? A lot of those Class A schools are getting bigger. So how are they helping out their middle school program be successful? So this is kind of a good starting point, have information across the board. A lot of those schools are looking at getting a middle school event coordinator, helping people set up and tear down. So I definitely, there's going to be a lot more of them. You see a lot on that list that don't have anybody or are ADs, transportation, vice principals, things like that, where it's just getting to be a lot. So a lot of them are thinking about getting more people within their districts.
euros? Some are just paying for people just to be there, event, people to help tear down, set up, and just be there. They don't necessarily have any other duties other than just that day. A couple of them commented that I wish we had somebody, and I keep asking for somebody, but they don't seem to listen to me, that kind of thing. And then some obviously they pay at different levels.
Frenchtown was very specific on everything.
Remind me again what we're paying our,
$5,100 right now, which equates to about, I did the math last time, I don't have it in front of me, it's like $15 an hour, 15 something and change.
and that's the whole year.
Yeah, that's for the year. So if they cover, if they're here on like Saturday, game this Saturday, if they're here, it might be 3 hours. Or if they're at a tournament all day for middle school volleyball, it might be 6 hours. So I had them keep their time and then just accumulate that together. So how often do they work? So we just put that together. This is just, again, discussion, to just information out to what other Class A schools are doing.
Any questions, comments from the public? Dan?
Yeah, so are you gonna be coming to us with a recommendation on this?
I think Andrew and I will get together and come to the recommendation. I feel a little more comfortable knowing what I know about some of these schools and where they're at. So we will come with something.
Levy?
I do know it's the 23rd of October, or October 2023. Anyways, I wanted to say that I was trying to find a smart way of saying it, and it came out backwards. But the principals all go to the games, but I couldn't imagine doing his job without an assistant. I think that's really, I just want the board to know just how much is involved there. Some of these districts, we're the largest Class A district. And so there's different sizes. We also have a lot of the state track and stuff like that. And so I just wanted you guys to be aware of how much the AD position is. And I was hoping that when I saw that, I was looking through everything, I was like, what's going on here? They're talking about taking something away from you. So I hope that that's not in your mind, because I know just how much it helps Andrew, or not, maybe it's not Elisa, but whoever the assistant AD is. So I just think it's really important for him to have that.
Thank you. And it's October 9th of 2023.
You just maybe want to clarify that there has not been any discussion or.
So there is no discussion, to my understanding or knowledge, that that position to be removed.
No, we're not talking about, I'm not recommending that. I think we're just talking about, it's a non-union position that major changes in the last few years. So we're just looking to see what's fair and what's, to keep people in that position and keep quality people. What do we need to pay that? What can we afford as well? It has to be maintainable throughout a long term.
Okay, anything else? Okay, if there's nothing else on the discussion, before we, do you want to do, well, I can do future discussion items. Any future discussion items? Jenny?
In our facility report, and also in your report, we discussed potentially the boiler going out, the bleachers, and I know we have one, like a 5-year, 10-year maintenance replacement schedule. Do we, or maybe with the new board, it'd be kind of nice to bring something like that up, so we can plan these potential.
Don't really have a maintenance schedule for things like boiler replacement, bleachers replacement.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we have a small running list that we've had for.
Yeah, and it could just be an informational item, just for new, you know what I mean? Just kind of.
Yeah, I know
look
Wayne
at
at some
it.
point has had a long list of stuff, but just be aware, it isn't like we're sitting on, well, we always know we have this much money and we can replace things. It's one of those, well, let's try to get that done this year, and then next year, maybe we have some issues that's unforeseen, and we can't put money towards something. You know, we have curriculum to buy.
I mean, the list that I have seen says this is everything we'd love and want to do. And then there's the tick off is what we can do.
That's kind of what I want to see.
And we have that.
This will answer your question completely. Let's just go through this at the next capital planning meeting, the document that Wayne has, we'll get it up to date and we'll present it to the board.
Perfect.
Thank you. Future discussion.
Things that we need to get back on. Okay, before everybody jumps off and leaves, let me get through this and then you guys can adjourn. The next matter to come before the board is a personal matter that I, the chairman of the board, have determined under MCA of 2-3-203, that the determination of the privacy in this matter clearly exceeds the merits of public disclosure, and I will be closing the meeting.